yeah, this is an orange wine, but this is not your regular orange wine. There's a ton to unpack with this. This is Bonny Doon's La Cigare orange wine. And I think this one has such a fun story, so let's start with that. La Cigare is the French word for UFOs, and you see there is a UFO on the bottle. The story comes from around 1954 in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which is a wine region in France. The winemakers had a fear that UFOs were going to land in their vineyard and apparently destroy their vines. So the government literally passed an ordinance saying that UFOs were not allowed to land. So that solved that problem. And although I wasn't there, I'm pretty sure that they probably didn't have any issues with UFOs after that. But the story behind this wine is not the only interesting part. This wine itself is super unique. So before we dive into why this orange wine is more special than maybe every other orange wines, let's talk about orange wine. So orange wine is actually made in the same style of wine as a rosé. And I've got a rosé here to compare. And we see that both of these bottles have some color to them. These colors are actually both super pretty. The difference is typical rosé is made by taking red wine grapes, crushing them, letting the juice sit with the red wine skins, and then removing the skins before it turns into red wine to give the wine a little bit of a pink hue. Orange wine is made in the exact same style, but just with white grapes. So these white grapes typically have green to yellow to grayish skins rather than red skins. So when they're pressed, the juice sits with the skins for a little bit and it gives off a little bit of an orange hue instead of a pink hue. So that means that some of the compounds that we get in rosé and red wines, things like tannin, that taste that dries out your tongue a little bit after you swallow, are still going to be present in orange wine versus something like white wine where they're not present because there was no skin contact. So this is an orange wine, and there's a lot of orange wines out there, but this orange wine is in particular special because of the grapes it's made with. So Bonny Doon here has used some unique grapes. So this wine right here is a blend of 5 grapes. So there's orange muscat, Chenin Blanc, Pinot Gris, and then the two that I think are the most interesting, Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris. So let's break this down. Grenache is a red wine grape. You might have had it before. You might have had one in what's called a GSM, a Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre blend. But this is a grape that is really popular in France and popular to be used in blending and on its own in the US. But every once in a while, grapes will do something naturally that's a little bit funky called mutation. Which, now that I think about it, is perfect that this wine has an alien on the front of it. It's all coming full circle. One of the most well-known wine mutations out there that I'm sure you've heard of is Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris. So when we look at the French here, Pinot Noir means black Pinot. Pinot Gris means gray Pinot. So what happened was Pinot Noir was doing its thing out in the vineyard, and some of them started to mutate. So rather than producing red grapes, they started producing grapes with a gray skin, Pinot Gris. There was another mutation that's a little bit less common, and that's called Pinot Blanc. And that is where the grapes then mutated again to be a white grape. So you've got Pinot Noir, the red one, Pinot Gris, the gray, and Pinot Blanc, the white. It's the same with Grenache. So Grenache, regular old Grenache, is a red grape. And then you've got Grenache Gris, which is a gray mutation of Grenache, and Grenache Blanc, or Grenache Bianca, it's also known as, which is the white version of Grenache. And so in this Bonny Doon wine, you've got both Grenache Gris and Grenache Bianca. Let's crack this open. Look at the color on this. Honestly, this color is just so pretty. I want to say like orange blossom and like orange peel, and almost like a little bit of that bitterness you get in an orange peel too, just like jumps out at me. I feel like I'm zesting an orange right now. Wow, that tastes like fresh tangerine juice. This is so peachy, so orangey. It's got some floral notes. It's really balanced. The acidity here is just perfect. It's not searing the inside of my mouth. And I'm just getting a little bit of that tannin on the tip of my tongue right after I swallow, but it's not overpowering. I'm not gonna lie, some of my friends who know me personally know that I usually am pretty against orange wine. I think it's sometimes just kind of trendy, but usually to me it's either too bitter or it's missing some of the fruitiness or the acidity that I'm looking for. And darn it, this might have changed my opinion. This is an orange wine that I would actually pick up a bottle of and drink again. So I love this. I hope you enjoyed the story that goes along with this bottle. If you find these wine tastings that are off the beaten path and different than what you typically hear, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at American Wine Rebel, and check out AmericanWineRebel.com. There is a lot more adventuring to do in this wild wine world, and I hope you join me on it. So cheers.